Good morning, Dr. Shegun. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very grateful for the privilege to be able to join you and to share this moment together. I'm very conscious of time allocated to me, so I'll be very, very brief. The slide is already displayed there. But just to make it very clear from the very beginning, I think we'll all understand that leadership, whether at the micro level, that is at the level of the individual, or at the level of the family, or at the macro level, at the level of community or society, is not easy. Leadership is a very tough challenge. The real test of leadership, however, does not occur when everything is smooth sailing. Leadership is oftentimes tested in times of crisis. It is during crisis that you see the real leadership qualities or the real leader shows up. The way a leader behaves during crisis will determine his credentials, either as a good leader or as a poor leader. Interestingly, there is no handy manual, there is no manual available out there to guide leaders through crisis. While there are certain protocols already established for crisis prevention, it is not always so with leadership during crisis. And the reason for this is not far-fetched because every crisis is unique in its own way, with its own complexities, requiring a different set of approaches. Like you can see on the slide there, leadership is essentially about people. Organizations are made up of people. So leadership is the mobilization of resources for the service of people. There are a lot of definitions out there about what leadership is and what leadership is not. My simple understanding of leadership is simply service. In whatever way we can look at it, leadership is essentially about serving people. Taking advantage of the resources available at our disposal, the resources that have been committed to us in trust in the service of the people. Now, this is very, very important because a lot of us have different ideas of what leadership is. The leader, for me, like I said, is a servant of the people. The leader is an architect, just like the architect designs the structure of the building. That is how a leader is. The role of the leader is to design the foundations and the basic structures and the systems that will deliver the results that are intended. In times of crisis, like I said, the role of a leader is not just to be instrumental or bureaucratic in a leadership approach, but instead to be inclusive and to actively engage stakeholders in identifying and addressing the challenge at hand. In this way, the leader embraces everyone as agents of change, not objects of change. Crisis presents a unique opportunity for leaders. In the moments of crisis, I understand clearly there are different leadership styles. During the introduction, when Dr. Shegun was talking about the induction coming up, he said someone is going to speak to us about the role of charismatic leadership. That is just one of the examples of the leadership styles. Now, there is no single leadership style that can be described as the best. Situations determine the approach and the kind of leadership styles that the leader will have to adopt. In a moment of crisis, I think the contingency leadership approach, contingency in this sense means that you look at all the leadership styles and approaches and then determine which one will be most appropriate in addressing the situation at hand. But before we go to that, I want us to quickly look at understanding crisis. What causes a crisis itself? As a leader, how do you understand crisis? How do you manage crisis? What causes crisis? And I think it is about people management. If people are not properly managed, if there is a sense of injustice, whether the injustice is real or perceived, then definitely crisis will arise. If the leader does not manage the resources available at his disposal properly, crisis will also emerge. That is why I mentioned the mobilization of resources. The resources are already available, but the way the leader mobilizes these resources, allocates them, and makes use of them in the service of the people for the benefit of the people is also very, very important. Another very important point we have to consider here that leads to crisis is what I call rankism. Now, this is a very dangerous trend, especially on the part of the leader. The attitude and disposition of the leader, what many of us now call the body language. As a leader, you can't treat human beings as objects and expect them to behave like human beings. Most of the times we see the attitude of our leaders, a high display of arrogance. When you don't have regard for people, definitely crisis will abound. People don't like being treated anyhow. When you respect leaders, you get the right response. It's like the computer. As a leader, what you put in to the people, that is what you get. Now, leading in time of crisis, like you see on the slide, I mentioned it before, that the approach of a leader, especially in time of crisis, should not just be instrumental or bureaucratic. That is just one of the styles of leadership. As a leader, at this stage, you need to be inclusive and adaptive. Inclusiveness gives you the opportunity to engage all the parties, all the stakeholders, bring everyone to the table. Embrace people as agents of change, not objects of change. Human beings are agents. Now, when it depends on how you respect them, how you mobilize them, how you assign duties and responsibilities, not just in times of crisis. The truth is that as a leader, you must recognize that every individual is important. Nobody is irrelevant. In fact, you have to consider that nobody is indispensable. Everybody has something to bring to the table. It is your duty to recognize this and to give every person the space to bring their ideas to the table. It helps you to succeed as a leader. Treat people as agents of change, not objects of change. And in doing this, it requires that the leader will work with everyone to establish and improve key systems. Doing this, like I said, creates the culture of interdependence and collaboration. This is very, very important. People have to realize, even as human beings, by our very nature as human beings, we are dependently originated. We depend on one another, even at our individual level. So at the level of society, for you to be successful as a leader, you have to realize that no individual can succeed alone. We depend on one another. Nobody has monopoly of knowledge. The fact that you are a leader is not an indication that you have all the answers. Leadership is a call. It is an invitation to service. So as a leader who is there to serve the people, you don't have all the answers. You need to bring everybody to the table so that they can put their ideas together. You take advantage to harmonize all the ideas to achieve the results that are desired. In organizations that are compartmentalized, it is difficult because you have individuals working on their own. I think in times of crisis, that is really not very, very helpful. You have this a lot in big companies where individuals have to work on their own. But in organizations where there are crises, I think this is really not encouraging. I mentioned earlier that the leader is an architect who must create the systems. But in doing this, something very, very important that a leader needs to do, especially in times of crisis, is to create the environment for psychological safety. Create a system in which everyone feels safe. In that environment of psychological safety, it gives the opportunity for everyone to bring their ideas to the table. Nobody is afraid that they will be punished or humiliated for speaking up or bringing out their ideas. Like I said, crisis is an opportunity for innovation, for creativity. It's an opportunity to do something that we call new, to do something different. It is about creating an environment where candor feels appropriate. So create environment where psychological safety is promoted. That encourages everybody to speak up. It creates a platform and opportunity for clarity of thought. Psychological safety supports productive conflict. It mitigates failure and promotes innovation. And very, very importantly, it increases accountability. When people don't feel safe, they withdraw into their cocoons and they don't share anything. And one of the biggest challenges with the lack of psychological safety in an environment is that people are afraid to speak and they begin to do praise singing because that is the only thing you hear. And this happens not because the people appreciate what you are doing, but they are afraid of saying the truth. So they only say those things that will massage your ego and make you happy. And this is not very helpful for a leader. When people you serve are not free and comfortable to express themselves, to tell you the truth about a situation, there is a lot of deception going on, and it will not help you as a leader. So a lot of benefits. It helps you as a leader to create an environment that supports psychological safety. There are certain behaviors for a leader to create that environment of psychological safety. You need to be visible, accessible, and approachable. There are some leaders, and this is not referring to anybody at all, because we are talking in the general sense now, especially for politicians. The time we are looking for votes, we are readily available. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry has access to us. But immediately we are elected, it becomes very, very difficult. Now people don't have access to you, except maybe few, and some sensitive, very important information that the community, people in the community have, that we provide to help you serve and govern well. They can't access you, and that is a problem. And if people cannot reach you, if you are not available, you are not approachable as a leader, there is no room for psychological safety. Acknowledge the limits of current knowledge. That is both on your part and the knowledge that is available to us to address a specific problem. Don't assume that what you know is everything. Like I said earlier, nobody has monopoly of knowledge. We keep learning and learning and learning. This is what helps individuals and leaders to grow and to do better. Be willing to display fallibility. Some of our leaders, or some of us who are leaders, behave as if we are deities, as if we are gods. We know everything. We can't make mistakes. This is not helpful. As human beings, we are fallible. We make mistakes. And if you make mistake as a leader, be sincere and honest enough to acknowledge that. I think the people you serve and the people we lead will respect you more, because it will be a source of inspiration to them. Invite participation. Open the door. Don't shut the door at everybody. And this happens mostly, this is very good if you don't look down on anybody at all. Like I said earlier, admit the fact that everybody has something to bring to the table. Create the room for everybody to participate. As a leader, you have to acknowledge that you don't know everything, and everybody in the country, in your community, in your organization has something. Even the security man at the gate, interestingly, knows a lot that you don't know. Create the space for everyone to bring something to the table. Highlight failures as learning opportunities. Sometimes, this is why I talked about psychological safety. If people think that failure is a bad thing, or even you as a leader think failure is a bad thing and you are afraid to fail, you can never succeed. Failure is part of learning. And as a leader, you really need to highlight this very, very clearly. Let the people you know, you serve, know that it is good to fail. It is an indication that you are making good effort. We learn from our failures. So let people not be afraid of failing. And if any of your subjects does a mistake, you don't need to punish that person, but see that as an opportunity to learn, to improve, and then become better. Hold people accountable. This is very, very important. As a leader, you need to hold yourself accountable. And the people who are working with you, you need to also hold people accountable. Like I said, even though failures should be seen as learning opportunities, there are times where you need to hold people accountable and also punish. It doesn't mean that you will not punish anybody at all, because failure is different from deliberate effort for mischief. And so this is the reason why you need to hold people responsible, accountable. If people are given assignments, are given responsibilities and duties to do, you ensure that they are closely monitored and they discharge their responsibilities. Hold people accountable. Use concrete and appropriate language while communicating. This is very, very important, especially in managing crisis as a leader. What we speak can either solve the problem or even complicate the problem further. So use appropriate language. As a leader, it is not right for you to insult people. It is not right for you to use words that make people look as if they are not human beings. Don't use words that make people feel as if they are not welcome. The truth is, like I said earlier, once people have a sense that they do not belong, if that sense of belonging, which this environment of psychological safety creates, is not there, then there is a tendency that these people will withdraw. As a leader, especially in times of crisis, it is better to give people the space and support them to speak up. It is more helpful, because the more people speak, the better for you, because you understand their thoughts, the working of their minds, what they are thinking, what they are planning, and what they are up to. Allow them to speak. But if that opportunity is not created, maybe by the way you address them, by the way you run them down, then they will withdraw, and that becomes even more dangerous. Because if people are not speaking to you as a leader, they go back to their cocoons and they will shock you. This is part of human nature. It is very clear that if you don't treat human beings well, they give you back exactly the way you have given them. So if as a leader you become too rankist, you know, this feeling that you know all, you are the best, nobody compares with you, you are the all and all, you don't want to take any advice from anybody, then people tend to go back to their shares and say, okay, since he knows all, even if they have the answers, nobody will tell you. People now begin to stay back and laugh at your own failures. So if you don't want to fail as a leader, communicate well, invite people to participate, create that space for psychological safety, and support them even when they fail. Let them know that failure is part of learning. And if people fail, you are not going to just punish them because they have failed. Now, I mentioned earlier that in times of crisis, I won't say that this is the best approach. But like I said earlier, the contingency leadership approach gives you the opportunity to look at the whole situation, the larger picture, and then within that context, determine the kind of leadership approach that you feel is most appropriate. But I talked about the inclusive leadership, but then the adaptive leadership is also very important. This is important because problems usually have two dimensions: the technical and adaptive problems. Technical problems are very, very easy to solve, but adaptive problems are very, very problematic. And this mostly has to do with crisis. A good example of a technical problem is maybe you are driving your car and then the car has a problem. You can easily call the mechanic because it requires special skills, technical skills, experts to deal with that. So you know what to do. Your vehicle has a problem, you go straight. You don't go to the restaurant and get somebody who is selling food in a restaurant to repair your car. You don't solve technical problems that way. You just get the expert, the mechanic. It's simple, and they will deal with it. But adaptive problems are very, very difficult to solve because they require a new set of knowledge. Most of the times, the existing knowledge may not be able to solve an adaptive problem. So adaptive leadership is also very, very, for me, is what I consider most of the times in dealing with crisis situations in my organization. For example, let's use a very good example of what is happening in our country. And again, like I said earlier, this is not making reference to anybody. We are just using this as an example to address the situation at hand, as an example of an adaptive problem. We have a situation of the conflict, for example, between farmers, crop farmers, and herders. This is an adaptive problem. And a good reason for this is that it is very difficult to solve this problem because you can't point to one solution. This kind of crisis did not just emerge in one day. There has been a build-up. There has been a lot of early warning signs that we didn't address very quickly. And then these issues expanded to the current crisis that we have now. So in order to deal with this problem, new knowledge is required. The leader will really have to resolve this by creating conditions that enable people with the problem to learn how to address it. So in solving this, for example, I sit in my office in Abuja, and there is a conflict between farmers and herdsmen somewhere in Ota, in Ogun State. I am not directly at that spot where this crisis is taking place. So it will be difficult for me to sit in Abuja and then profile solutions to the problem. But in doing that, you need to get the people who are involved in the problem to learn how to address it. These people are in a unique position of being the source of the problem, and at the same time, they have the keys to solving the problem. So they are affected by the problem. They can also offer solutions, very clear solutions on how to solve the problem. Get them involved to the table. How do we identify crisis? How do we identify adaptive problems? For example, I'll give you one good example. When there is a huge gap in terms of the aspirations people have and the reality on the ground, crisis naturally will emerge. People have a lot of expectations for the leader. In electing the leader, for example, people thought, this leader is going to solve all the problem in the world for us. He's going to ensure that the problem of education is solved. The problem of poverty is addressed. The problem of insecurity. These are very, very huge aspirations. But the challenge is that sometimes we will not always blame the people. The challenge is that these expectations are high, but many times people fail to understand that the expectations we have for the leader do not always match with the capacities and the qualities of the leader. So the expectations may be higher than who the leader is. And then in terms of matching the realities on the ground, it becomes very, very difficult. So when this kind of situation exists, you see that the language of complaint, you hear from the subject. So what you'll be hearing as a leader from the people is that people will be constantly complaining. And when you are hearing that, what that should tell you is that there is a huge gap between aspirations of the people and the reality on the ground. So you should be very, very conscious of that. Another characteristic, you will see that on your slide, new stakeholders across boundaries need to be engaged. One of the challenges that leaders do all the time, especially even in times of crisis, is rounding up the usual suspects to address the issue. This does not produce any result. It doesn't solve the problem. So once there is a crisis situation, you call the usual suspect, the normal people, people in government, people in authorities, maybe ministers, special advisors, or the same class of people all the time. So for every crisis situation, it is the same people you bring to the table to solve it. It doesn't solve the problem. I want to give you one good example. I read this from an interesting book, and it made a lot of meaning to me, even in my organization. There was a robbery incident somewhere in a certain house, and people lived in the house. They had a very big dog, and that dog hated visitors. No strangers were allowed to come into the compound, whether in the daytime or in the night, because the dog never wanted strangers. But the dog was very, very friendly with every other person in the house. So one day there was a robbery incident in the house, and then they invited the police. They came, arrested everybody within the locality, and they took him, as we always do, because once there is a situation somewhere, whether it's armed robbery or whatever, the first thing to do is to come around and arrest everybody. But there was one investigator among the policemen who decided, no, to check the environment very well. And he realized there was a dog in that house. So he began to do investigation regarding this dog to find out exactly the behavior of the dog. And he was made to understand that this dog was a kind of dog that never welcomed visitors. No stranger would be allowed. He also realized, like I said earlier, that the dog was very, very friendly with every other person in the house. But at the time of this incident, at the time of the robbery, it was very clear, he found out from his investigation, that there was no barking, that the dog didn't bark at all. It means that there was no stranger. The robber was not an outsider, because if the robber was a stranger, the dog would bark and everybody would be awake. And since there was no barking from the dog, it meant that, his suspicion was that probably it was an insider thing. And that was why he decided now to arrest everybody, including the owner of the house. And luckily, they found out that it was one of the persons living in the house, upon a lot of investigation. Why am I giving that example? When there is a situation on ground, try to make sure that every situation requires new knowledge, like I said, a new set of stakeholders, because every challenge, every problem is unique. Look for the people who are directly affected by the problem, because since they are affected, they also have the solution to the problem. But if you ignore them because you feel they are not occupying any position at all, and so you feel that it's only the person who is the minister or the person who is the special advisor that has all the answers, I think as a leader, you'll be losing something very, very, very important. Finally, leading the adaptive work, like I say, start where the people are. Go to where there is a problem, get the people who are involved in the problem, bring them to the table. They will help you in dealing with the problem. Identify challenges that are ripe for change. This is very, very important, because each conflict produces even more conflicts if it is not properly tackled. So in a series of conflicts, what we call the ripple effect, look for the ones that are ripe to address, and address them quickly. That will give you the opportunity to face the ones that are not ripe yet. This is very, very important. I give you an example. How do you know that a challenge is ripe for change? When there is a generalized sense of urgency and there is a sufficient number of stakeholders who are ready to tackle it. As a leader, you know that the problem is ripe for change. That is need to address very quickly. There is everywhere you see, there is a generalized sense of urgency. We are seeing it now, even in our country. The conflict, especially between the farmers and the herders, is very, very clear. There is a generalized sense of urgency everywhere in the country. Everybody is talking about it. All the stakeholders from every region of the country, everybody wants this situation solved. So as a leader, this is, even if I use this word, this is an opportunity for you to shine, because this problem is ripe. Everybody wants it addressed. You can take advantage of this urgency and this mood to address that problem quickly. Because if you allow it to keep boiling, in fact, it will even bring you down as a leader. Distribute leadership and find allies. This is very, very important. Distributed leadership, especially in moment of crisis, is very, very important. You can't do it alone. Get a lot of people involved. Distribute, assign responsibilities, look for the experiences, the skills that different individuals have, give them responsibilities, and demand that they discharge their responsibilities, demand accountability. Find allies, people that will work with you. And in finding allies, it's not only people who say yes as a leader. It's not only people who answer yes. Even people who answer no can become very, very helpful allies. The fact that people say no is not an indication that these people hate you as a leader, because saying no is part of the freedom of expression. They may be delivering very, very important messages to you. So find allies from wherever you can get them. Cut the uncommitted and deal with dissent. There are people who will not be committed to what you are doing as a leader for a number of reasons. Like we said earlier, maybe they don't believe in what you are doing, or maybe they feel they are not part of the circle, you have not welcomed them, you have not treated them justly. Every crisis, in fact, arises as a result of injustice, whether it is real or perceived. And when people have that sense that the leader is not treating them well, they withdraw, and then they become very, very uncommitted. Get those who are not committed to be committed. Using this same crisis I talked about in terms of dealing with the farmers' header conflict. As a leader, like our president, for example, there are a lot of people who are not committed to this cause. And there are also those who are committed. Bring everybody to the table. For those who are committed to solving the problem, you have it already. You have them already. The next thing to do is look for people who are not committed, to find a way to bring them to the table. Get them committed. Because once the problem is solved, it is you, the leader, who will be celebrated. So whatever you can do positively to bring everybody to the table to solve whatever kind of conflict at hand, please do it. And finally, project honesty and confidence. As a leader, you need to be honest. The people you serve want to see you being honest. They want to see you leading with confidence, because if you show them any sign that you are losing it, then the followers will also give up hope. A leader must not give up no matter how the situation is. Exercise caution. Like I said earlier, use careful language. The fact that there is crisis doesn't mean that as a leader, you have to throw caution to the wind and then say whatever you want to say. This is really not helpful. In times of crisis as a leader, that is when you have to be even more cautious. Be very, very careful with your words. Be very careful with your behavior, the body language. Because in times of crisis, everybody is watching to see the leader. Everybody is watching to see to hear what you say. Everybody is watching to see your behavior. People pay more attention to the leader in times of crisis. And if there is any sign or your body language shows that you are either in support of the crisis one way or another, then the crisis even multiplies. You have to be very, very careful, calculated, solve, deal with the problem, deal with this dissent immediately, but you have to also be very cautious. Please forgive me to add this: seek credible information. In dealing with crisis as a leader, information is very, very important. Make sure that information at your disposal is credible. That is why you need a wide range of stakeholders, not just people within your circle, because the people in your circle understand the working of your mind. They will only tell you what what they know you want to hear. Expand your horizon, get more stakeholders, go down. Usually this instrumental leadership, the top-bottom approach in solving problems, in getting information in times of crisis is really not helpful. I think the bottom-up approach will be more important. And you can do that by expanding, getting more stakeholders at the table. Those who are affected by the problem, They have the most credible information that you can get in addressing the situation. Move away from your comfort zone, as what I would call the comfort zone as a leader. In most cases, you see leaders locked up in one place. If I want to get information across to my state governor now, for example, it will be very, very difficult. I have to pass through a whole list of special advisors. And by the time that information gets to him, they may even decide what should get to the governor and what should not get to him. They will filter the information. It becomes reported speech. But if you get to the grassroots where the problem is happening yourself, and there are different ways you can do that as a leader, you have the credible information, the most authentic information that can help you to solve the problem. And finally, and this is what I consider as very, very important, always explain what you are doing about the crisis. Let the people know what you are doing. Don't assume. Don't keep quiet that we are doing a lot of things so the people will know. No, they don't know. You must speak. In times of crisis, a leader, please, you will speak, speak, speak. If you are the kind of leader that doesn't speak at all, crisis gives you the opportunity to speak almost every second. Every time the people want to hear from you, tell them today, this is what I have done about this crisis. Let them hear from you and let them see that what you have said, it is actually what is happening on the ground. That helps to build confidence. It helps to build trust. But if you keep quiet and assume that the people know, the truth of the matter is that a lot of information will be flying here and there, a lot of rumors, and that will help in even complicating the situation. It will not really be helpful. I think because of time, I will stop here. I'm sincerely grateful for the opportunity to be able to share these few points with you. I think if there are any questions or observations, we can follow up from there. Thank you so much, Dr. Shegun and everyone.
Dr. Emmanuel, thank you very much. In fact, you manage your time. Out of your 45 minutes, you just spent 44 minutes. Okay. Very timely, and your delivery is very educative. For some of us that join us late, Dr. Emmanuel Handi Ivogwa is a PhD holder. He's a West African Regional Coordinator for United Religion Initiative. He is a speaker, and he has organized different programs locally and internationally. He's a 2014 Unsung Heroes of Compassion Award in San Francisco, United States of America. He has organized a lot of documentary about dialogue between Muslim and Christian in Nigeria. He has previously served as a resource person, trainer, facilitator, United Nations Alliance for Civilization, Education First Summer School in Tarrytown, New York, United States of America, where he led us or specialized sections on model discussion on interfaith dialogue. He has involved in a lot of crisis resolution between Christians and Muslims across West Africa, Europe, and Africa. He's a founder and president of Emmanuel Ivogwa Foundation. He has served as a Global Studies Centers coordinator for Dalai Lama Foundations and Council Ambassador. I want to really appreciate you for your presentation this morning. I'm going to open the floor for questions because it's looking at how you can manage crisis as a leader. He made some points that are very key and very germane, which I would like to repeat before we ask our question. Crises occur when there are issues, especially people management, resources management, poor allocations, poor utilization of resources. And he made us understand, he aligned with our definition of leadership by saying leadership is a mobilization of resources for the benefit of others. Leadership is about service. It's not where we come to amount everything for ourselves, our uncle, our brother, our cousin alone. It's not where you build everything around yourself alone. It's about using the available resources to better others. And he made us understand that everybody has something to bring on the table. Crisis is an opportunity for you to do something different. So don't see crisis as if they are my haters. When they criticize you, don't see them as if because they belong to another party. Don't see them as if because they are vying for your position. I want to ask you one question, sir, before I open the floor. How do leaders build their capacity to meet people's expectations and avoid adaptive problems?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Shegun. Like I explained earlier, this is a very interesting angle. Maybe I'll begin by quickly looking at the idea of meeting people's expectations. This is very, very important. And I will use political leadership as a good example of this. One way that we can help ourselves as political leaders and also at the same time meet the expectations of the people is this. During campaigns, we need to be very honest and sincere and don't overpromise, because this is what creates the problem. The promises we make to people during political campaigns raises a lot of hopes and expectations. When you tell people you will turn the roads to gold, and we hear a lot of this, you will make sure that education is free for all. There will be hospitals in every locality in the country. These are not promises that we have to joke with. Be very, very realistic in your promises. Make sure that the promises you make match your capacity as an individual, match your skills, and also the resources that will be available to you. Because as a leader, for example, if you are contesting elections, I'm sure that you must have done proper study to understand that if I want to govern a state, I have a clear understanding of the resources that are available to that state currently. And by the time I'm given the opportunity to serve, what kind of resources will be available, and those resources that will not be available, and what I need to do to get additional resources. You must have done your homework properly. So if you are making your promises, be honest enough to make sure that those promises match this. The best way I will advise is promise little, do more.
Thank you very much for that response. I can see you bring it from the political angle. We should not overpromise. Even in the organizational setting, when they are bringing you as a branch manager, as a director,
exactly,
a lot of expectations come from you. But you know, on that organizational level, we don't campaign. Do you understand?
Yes.
So on the organizational level too, we also have adaptive issues. So we need to balance it beyond political line. But before I allow someone to ask questions, I have some politicians here. Some are currently competing. I need to ask them, why do people overpromise? Honorable Sheriff Olayiwola, I see you are currently contesting in your state. As a politician, because that question is coming from political angle, why do people overpromise? And when you get there, you do less. Can I hear from you?
Well, let me come in from this point of view. Why people overpromise? Though me, I have not overpromised because I've never owned any political office from time being. Yeah. Why people overpromise is this. Our people expectation is high. And because of the opposition, when you see your opposition telling you, you will create heaven in Nigeria, you too, you must, at least, well, there's what we call advertisement. Campaigns and advertisement. And you have to be, and you have to give people this hope from you. Then you can now do your best. What people overpromise is this. At the end of the day, when they get to power, the resources at times were limited from the unlimited promises that they've made. Let us look at the economic situation that happened, the global pandemic as well. It's another hindrance to the issue of promise. In the session about, I am contesting at the local government level now. Look at the issue of local government issues. There is no autonomy for the local government, whereby most local government has been pocketed by the governor. Let me use my state as an example, as a case study now. If you want to carry out a project in the local government, you have to go to the state governor. The state governor will write down, you have to create this road. The state government, the Ministry of Works, will be the one to initiate all expenses from A to Z. What you just have to do there, just go and perform a supervisory role
So
in that place. That is the issue that we are having.
Honorable Sheriff, you overpromise to beat your political rivals. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is the issue.
So you are campaigning and you are deceiving people. You are lying for people. You are saying what you cannot do. Is that what you're saying?
I don't say me. I'm saying people who are doing it.
You are currently contesting in your state.
You should not be.
Yes, I'm currently. Let me give you an example. I'm currently
contesting. You're also campaigning. You're also going to campaign, or you've campaigned, or you are campaigning. So because
I am campaigning.
Counterparts are promising heaven and earth. You two, you are now promising evil universe.
Let me give you an example.
Whereas you know you cannot meet up.
Sorry, Dr. Shegun. Dr. Shegun, I was saying, my campaign chairman during this election, that was the day we were moving out. I have to tell him one bit to that. This your grandfather's house is on the main road. When we eventually win this election, we are demolishing this house. You know the funny part? The second day, he decamped from the party. I went to another party. That is where you see things. I told my people, I am not coming here to contest for anything. If you like, if I win, I will leave. If I didn't win, I will go back. And when the party said, no, they don't need you because you said much of truth, I came back to my office and I'm doing my personal business. So, but I'm only telling you that this is the issue why people will continue lying for people.
All right.
Because
so thank you.
It is only the sweet things.
The bottom line there. Thank you, Honorable Sheriff. The bottom line there is that crises occur when we promise something and we are not able to deliver. Crises occur when we are not able to allocate the resources appropriately. Crises occur when there is no people management. Thank you. Let me go back to Reverend Bamidele Adeshina from Badagry. Reverend, good morning.
No, thank you very much. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much. I must commend like I said, I must commend our institute for doing a wonderful job at this time.
Thank you, sir.
When you look at the choice of topic, leadership navigation in times of crisis, is a very relevant and a very appropriate topic for what we are facing in Nigeria and all over, whether the community, the religious bodies, and other. And I must commend our resource person, Dr. Ivogba, for doing a wonderful job. Of course, let me pass this comment. Just like the question you asked the Honorable, our resource person said it all, that look, what we just need to do is to give honest campaign statement to our people. But we also need to educate the electorate as well, they should not allow themselves, a pack of Indomie, 2,000 naira, 1,000 naira to get their votes. It's messy and it's disappointing. People should know what they want, and they need to evaluate all these aspirants by their performance, by the delivery, what we are seeing and what they are doing. And I believe that no member of this institute who is contesting any electoral position or office in Nigeria or any of the state or their local government will go and do otherwise. They should be good ambassador of our institute, and God will bless everyone. Now to my question. We said crisis happened as a result of so many things. My question is this: what can you say, that's our resource person, about hierarchical terrorism? Because you discuss some of the causes of crisis. One of the major causes of crisis in any organization, be it Nigeria, be it religious, be it economic, be it industrial, whatever organization you want to call it, hierarchical terrorism is now the order of the day. If you are well acquainted with what is happening in Nigeria, EFCC, you listened to the interview he granted on Channel Television 2 days ago, and as of yesterday evening, you heard that my life is under threat, coming from the newspapers and all that, because he said they should begin to climb down on people for acquiring assets and all that, because that is another avenue where people embezzle government money and use it and put the money, either other estate management, and the life is under threat. What can we say about hierarchical terrorism in terms of crisis navigation?
Thank you very much. I need to be, this is a very technical, a political question. I need to be very careful in how I answer that question because I'm not a politician. So I need to be very careful. This is a public platform also. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. The truth of the matter is that the problem, as you described, didn't start today. So there is a history of a series of events that have built up to have the kind of structure and the system that we have now. So we have a system whereby anything happens. So we have a system that has empowered individuals stronger than the system itself. The individuals have become so, this is a problem. Let me put it just straightforward. When we run a country in which individuals become stronger than agencies of governance, this kind of situation is bound to arise. The way to deal with, in summary, is to go back to the drawing board, if there was any board from the beginning at all. If there was no board at all, then we need to create a board now and then begin to work afresh to make sure that we build a system that ensures that every individual is subject to the law. We need to create a situation whereby the system works, not that individuals become too powerful than even the system itself. I think once we do that, like the EFCC chairman talking about now, if we are running a system where nobody is above the law, those people who are threatening him with death, they are doing so because they have the liberty to do that. They have been doing it for long because they feel they are above the law. They are greater than the country, and they can do whatever they want to do, and nobody has the right to interrogate them. So this is over the years, we've been seeing that happening. It didn't just start today. It's been there. This is the system that has been built. This is a system that we've inherited. So it is time now, since we know it, those who are working in those areas are speaking up. We really need to support them. The EFCC chairman has given us, as Nigerian citizens, a very good opportunity to rally around and make sure that the right things are done so that no individual is above the law. I think this is just clearly my understanding.
Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel. He said, for hierarchical leadership issue, we need to create a better system. But in Nigeria, we have the constitution, we have all those things that guide us, but people still violate it. That means in Nigeria, individuals are bigger than institutions. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Exactly.
Dr. Emmanuel?
Yeah.
So what of our own organization, where some people too, the same things happen and they do it and they go scot-free? Does it mean in our own organizations too, individuals are also powerful than the rules and regulations?
Yeah, Doctor, you know that this is what is called the Nigerian, what is the language we use, which I don't always like using it, is the Nigerian way. What happens in the public sector has also come into the private sector. So even in our homes, actually leadership begins from the home. If
so we need
as
to
leaders
in the
home we are able to do well, definitely when we get to the societal level, we will perform well also. So this is just a reflection of what is happening in our homes.
Okay.
So even in private organizations and companies, you see that challenge. It's the Nigerian mentality.
Let me move to our mommy there, the ICANN chairman in Abuja, Mrs. Bosede Kanova. Right now, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel Ivoga. We are very much appreciative that you took time out to come to speak to us today. The thoughts you have shared and the practical examples that you have also given to us are what we need to hear, to enable us. I align myself, that leadership is a very, very tough challenge. And I want to take my question from a slightly different angle. In the period of crisis, you often find that there are saboteurs. People want to take advantage of the crisis, to derail, to make you lose focus, to make you lose ground. And if care is not taken, while you are trying to manage the people, manage the events and all of that, you lose focus, not knowing that there are some other enemy that do not want you to succeed. So I want to ask, in a practical term, how best do you handle such people so that you don't lose focus of what you are trying to handle? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Mommy Bosede. This is a very interesting question. Let me very quickly say One, a leader should know a little bit of everything because that gives you an edge. A leader, for example, should have an idea of economics. I'm not saying you must know everything. You should know a little bit of economics, a little bit of biology, a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of politics, a little bit of whatever. That puts you in a position of a vantage position so that if there is any problem, first, before anybody advises you, you already have the basic understanding of what that is. The advice will just add up to what you know. And if anybody is trying to sabotage or do something different, you understand. If you don't have, for example, an understanding of medicine, and then your subject is crying of headache, you won't even know. Somebody comes to tell you, this man is crying headache, give him a COVID-19 vaccine. And then you say, okay, go ahead, because you don't know anything. But the basic understanding will let you know what to first administer before even calling the expert. So that is one. The second point relating to that is what I mentioned earlier. Stakeholder engagement is very, very important. The reason why some people will sabotage you or remain very, very uncommitted to what you are doing is because they already have a feeling that they are not welcome. You didn't invite them by your words and by your body language. So from the beginning, let everybody understand, let it be seen very, very clearly and very, very honestly that you are running what we call an open door policy that welcomes everybody. You let everybody know that you are here as a servant. This is the problem. When we see leadership in terms of authority and power, instead of leadership in terms of service, this is where a lot of people will decide to stay away from us because most of us focus on the authority and the power and all the benefits that follow authority and power. And then we begin to intimidate people. Like I said earlier, you can't treat me as a human being. You can't treat me as an object and expect me to behave like a human being. If you want me to behave like a human being, treat me as a human being. Then I will give you everything you need. In terms of conflict, like what you mentioned about the sabotage, remember that there are different people with different interests. There are people we call conflict entrepreneurs. Their job is to instigate conflict because they want to make money. So as long as the conflicts continue, they smile to the banks. So if you are asking them not to do it, you know that they will resist you. They will try to sabotage all your efforts. But this again, that is why I say a leader must know a little bit of everything. It gives you an edge. And then if you open the door that engages a wider spectrum of stakeholders, it will help you to even deal with those who will sabotage your effort. In fact, the person who is sabotaging the effort is doing so for his personal interest. But the truth of the matter is, like I said, even the person who is saying no is not your enemy. Try to bring him to the table and find out why he or she is doing that. In the end, you may win that person over. So at the end, for a leader, especially, I like giving this example, especially for political leadership, because politicians like honor, they like all this glory. If you bring both your enemy and your friend to the table and a problem is solved, it is you who will be celebrated. So don't look at the person who is sabotaging your efforts as an enemy, but see him as somebody who is being misled or somebody who doesn't understand what he's doing. It is your duty as a leader to bring that person to the table and let them bring them to your side. If they were not on your side, that is why I said, cut the uncommitted, build allies, engage more stakeholders.
Thank you. I picked something from there. So we have conflict entrepreneur. That means we'll keep on having saboteur because they make money from conflict. Yes, they feed their family from conflict. They succeed from conflict. They are conflict entrepreneur. I wish there is that we have enough time to look at different type of conflict. So that I'll be interested in that conflict entrepreneur because even the issue of kidnapping, Boko Haram, we are looking at this. Look at kidnapping now. They are becoming a conflict entrepreneur because it's as if they are building mansion from the money they are paying them every day. and they derive joy in sabotaging the effort of the government, or the same thing happen in every organization. Thank you for that input. We need to engage stakeholders. We need to treat people as human beings, as agents, not just as an object. Thank you for that. Let me go to one of our board member, Dr. Olubode. Okay, please, you can unmute now and ask your question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Yeah, and our speaker, we are very grateful for that good presentation. Based on our topic, leadership in time of crisis. And we know that the crisis is inevitable when we are leading. And conflict is there to happen. And my question is, as the leader, how do we respond in terms of crisis or conflicts?
Like I said earlier, and you've just captured it so well too, conflict is inevitable. That is true. But then there is a positive conflict, and there is also negative conflict. So if we look at conflict in the positive sense, that is productive, because it gives us an opportunity to innovate, to become more creative, to bring new ideas to the table, and to do things different. So in that aspect, conflict is something positive, something is good, and we have to anticipate it at any point in time. It's not something we should be scared or worried about. I think the best way to, or one way to respond to crisis is, first of all, to be prepared for the crisis. I think this word is used all the time, to be proactive, anticipating that this thing will come, whether we like it or not. So you prepare. It's like faith, you know, expecting, receiving it, even when it has not entered your hand already. It gives you, you know, that you are prepared. You, as a leader, you should be very, very well prepared that conflict is going to come. And so when it comes, you don't, it shouldn't get you shocked or as something as a setback. That is one. Prepare ahead of time. Be proactive. The second one is when the crisis is already there. That is why we gave some of these examples of the kind of leadership style that can be adopted. For example, if you are the kind of leader that is always instrumental or bureaucratic, it will be very, very difficult to deal with a crisis situation. We gave example already. Let's use the example I used before about the crop farmers and the herders. People are being killed somewhere in Ogun State, and then an action needs to be taken very, very quickly to deal with that problem in the immediate term, to end the ongoing killing first, and then in the long term, what needs to be done to make sure that that thing does not occur again. So there are short-term solutions and then long-term solutions. But this kind of top-down, hierarchical, instrumental, bureaucratic leadership style, that information we have to move from here to here to here, it consumes a lot of time and energy. Why people are being killed? I think it doesn't help at all. That is why I said you have to adopt what is called the contingency leadership approach. You have to be inclusive and you have to be adaptive.
Thank you for that response. So we should always be prepared for conflict. As a leader in any capacity, always be ready for conflict. One of these days, we are going to treat something on conflict resolution. We're going to also look more on these adaptive challenges. So please put it in mind. It's a topic that is very important to us as a leader. Dr. Ivonga makes us understand that we must always be prepared. Conflicts are bound to happen because there are conflict entrepreneurs. There are people that derive joy, promotion, success in conflict. So conflict will always arise. We must be contingent, we must be adaptive. That is very timely from you. Thank you for that. Let me move on to Dr. Caroline.
Yes, my question is on the response of Dr. Emmanuel. He said, with respect to sabotage, leadership sabotage, that we should have a wider spectrum of stakeholders, bring both our friends and enemies to the table or to our side. If you do that, and this enemy seems not to be close to you, what do? What do you advise we do? You have tried all you could to bring the enemies close to you, and yet they are not coming. What do you advise?
But, this is very interesting. Dr. Caroline, thank you so much for that very important question. You know, a leader, your knowledge, this is, they say wisdom is profitable also. You have to be knowledgeable as a leader, but at the same time, you need to be wise. Knowing is not enough. Applying what you know is even more important. That is where wisdom comes in.
Knowing is not enough.
Yes.
Applying what you know is better.
It's even more important because application is what wisdom is. Knowing is what knowledge, having all the facts. You already know that this is a crisis happening. You have all the information of what has caused this crisis, the stakeholders, all the actors, both the shadows and the people who are directly involved in the crisis. You know them already. That is good enough. But in dealing with this crisis, there is where wisdom comes in. So you make every effort to bring the stakeholders, and this is your duty, to bring everybody to the table as much as you can. But the truth of the matter is this. It is like we say in life, there are some people, even without doing anything, they just hate you like that. Have you seen that? You have not done anything wrong to them. They just hate you. It happens also in leadership. So there are some people, even if you kill yourself, they will never come to your side. And so you have, as a leader, you must be wise and clever enough to understand that you have gotten to the point where enough is enough. That is why I said earlier, you must be willing to deal with dissent. As a leader, it comes to a point where you must deal with dissent. It has become very clear that you have done everything you should do to bring all the stakeholders together. Majority of the stakeholders, let's say 90% of the stakeholders are aware of the effort you have made. But the 10% is refusing to come to the table. It is not for your benefit, so to say, but to solve the problem for the benefit of the community. In this case, the interest of all becomes more important than the interest of the minority. The interest of the majority becomes more important than the interest of the minority, because those who are sabotaging the effort cannot be said to be in the majority. And there are relevant laws in the land to deal with such situations. So you must find laws that are applicable to different individuals. If people are deliberately breaking the laws because they want to sabotage, for example, nobody is allowed to just be going up and down with weapons, killing people up and down. For what? And there are laws to deal with that. And if they are doing it to sabotage your efforts as a leader, you are empowered by the law to arrest them and deal with them. It is very clear. So for every act of sabotage, I think there are enough laws in our books to deal with that. But as a leader, you must be honest. You must communicate honestly. You must communicate frequently to let the people you are serving know about the efforts you are making.
Thank you. Thank you. Knowing is not enough. Knowing is not enough. Application is very, very important. Even though you are bringing your enemy to the table, you must be wise. You must be smart. You must be intelligent. That is very key. Thank you for that take home. We are bringing this meeting to a close. Let me remind us that next month is our induction. If you are here to take the advantage, kindly subscribe now, because we'll be processing the last batch by the ending of this month. So if you are yet to respond, kindly do that as quick as possible so we will not be under duress. Our venue still remains Merit House, Maitama, Abuja, on 23rd of July by 10 a.m. We are going to have very important guests in this, our program, in person of Professor Nu Yakub. Many of us know him already. Professor Nu Yakub, he was a Vice Chancellor of University of Abuja, Sokoto. And we're going to have the former Honorable Minister as our chairman, Honorable Kabiru Taminu Turaki. Is a senior advocate of Nigeria, is a politician, and is a former minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. He will be chairing this occasion They will be there live to increase this rotation. We have members coming from different parts of Nigeria to join this year induction. I want to encourage you, if you are yet to join the membership, the 6th induction, we are looking at the role of charismatic leadership. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. In case you want to say hi to somebody now, unmute yourself and let's disturb this group a little bit. Tell somebody goodbye in your language. Never be afraid whether they hear you or they don't understand you. Nigeria has over 250 languages. Why not be proud of your language?
Hello,
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Catch you up.
Thank you.
Thank you.